This is a demonstration of the bch-js npm library. It's a JavaScript library for writing applications that interact with the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. And this is one of the products offered by FullStack Cash. The demos that I'm going to cover in this video there's going to be two of them. First, we're going to create a wallet and then send Bitcoin Cash using that wallet, just as a demo. And for this, we're going to use the testnet, so it won't be real Bitcoin Cash, but it's sort of a mirror network that they call the testnet for doing this type of development without you risking real money. Then after that, we're going to do a similar demonstration using the real Bitcoin Cash and create a SLP token, which is a new token protocol that runs on top of the Bitcoin Cash network, and that will use real Bitcoin Cash. So let's dive right on in here with the first demo. The place you want to start is FullStack.cash. So it's like .com, but it's .cash instead of .com. And there's a video here to introduce you to the concept of the cache stack, which is captured in this picture here. And if you click that link, it'll take you to the full article. But what the cache stack is it's a framework for how a front-end developer, like someone who creates a phone app or a web app, would then interact with the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. And it shows all the layers of software that go from the phone app, which is the first layer at the top, all the way down to the Bitcoin Cash blockchain, which is at the bottom. And the primary tool for doing that is the bch-js JavaScript library and the bch API REST API. Now, if you're not a JavaScript developer, you can still use the REST API. Any modern language will be able to make REST API calls, but a lot of the tooling is JavaScript centric, and so that's what we're going to be using today is the bch-js library. So the examples that I'm going to walk through in this video, if you scroll down, you can go to the examples page, and there's a button right here on the View Examples on GitHub. So we're going to open that up and go to this repository. These are user-contributed examples for using bch-js. There's a whole bunch of examples in here for doing all sorts of different things with Bitcoin Cash. But we're going to just explore creating a wallet and sending some testnet Bitcoin Cash right now. The instructions for installation are pretty clear. You want to git clone it and then run npm install to install your dependencies. And there are links to the examples that I'm going to cover in this video here at the bottom. There's also some links to the documentation and a great technical reference, Mastering Bitcoin Cash, which is based off of Andreas Antonopoulos' Mastering Bitcoin book, but more focused for the differences between Bitcoin Cash. So let's go. The first thing you're going to want to do is create the wallet. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to load this code in my own terminal here. So I'm in the bch-js examples directory. So I've already cloned this repository and I've installed the dependencies with npm install. And so you can see there's directories, applications, low level. That mirrors the directories that exist in the repo, applications, low level. So if you go into the applications directory, you'll see there's an SLP directory and a wallet directory. So SLP is examples for working with SLP tokens, and wallet is just a normal Bitcoin Cash wallet. The very first thing you're going to want to do is create the wallet, and this is a link to that example that I'm about to run. Here you can see the code, and basically all you need to do is go into each directory and run npm start, and that will execute this little example program that's in there. And what it did is it created a wallet with a 12-word BIP39 mnemonic. So this is essentially the private key or the password for this wallet. This is what unlocks everything. So this is what you would normally want to keep private and write down. And Bitcoin Cash uses this derivation path of 145. If you're technical, it's important to keep that in mind. If you're not technical, just that's not a super important thing to at the beginning to remember. And then what it did is it's an HD wallet. So with these 12 words, it can generate billions of Bitcoin Cash addresses. So here it generated the first 10 Bitcoin Cash addresses. And what it did is it created this wallet.json file. And this is this is like the critical wallet information that all the other examples are going to use. And so the very first thing we need to do is now that we've created a wallet, that's the first thing we need to do. The second thing we need to do is get some Bitcoin Cash. And so we're using the testnet, and that can be seen by bch-test. If it was mainnet and we were using real Bitcoin Cash, this would say Bitcoin Cash. And so if we go back to the README, there's a link here to the testnet faucet, but I'm also going to show you how to get there. If you're on the FullStack.cash webpage, in the examples page where we were to go to the examples, you can scroll down and there's a link here to the testnet faucet. So on this page, it shows, so the faucet is an app that distributes testnet coins. So it's currently got a balance of 378 testnet coins, and it gives out 0.1 testnet coins. So we're going to take this cache address that's in the wallet.json file that we just generated, and we're going to paste it in here and click the button. Oh, there was an error. Okay, well hopefully that won't happen to you. This only lets you use one address a day, and only from the same IP every 24 hours, and it won't let you send it to the same address more than once. So let me fix this real quick. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, I was able to use a new IP address and a new Bitcoin Cash address in order to get some testnet coins. So going back to the terminal, if we get out of that create wallet directory, there is a check balance directory. So again, we'll just do npm start, and this is going to read the wallet that we used before. And you can see that I have a balance of 1,000. Let's see. No, I have a unconfirmed balance of 10 million satoshis, which is 0.1 Bitcoin Cash. So there's 100 million satoshis in a Bitcoin. And so just like there's dollars and cents, satoshis are the smallest denomination of Bitcoin. There's 100 million satoshis in a Bitcoin. And so there's one transaction ID from the faucet sending me the money. And let me just show you how to use the Explorer. I prefer to use the Bitcoin.com Explorer. So if you go to explorer.bitcoin.com, it'll default to testnet. So to go to to mainnet. So to go to testnet, you just put a T behind the BCH in the URL there. And now we're looking at testnet. It even says testnet up here. And this transaction ID, I copied this, and now I can paste it in here. And it's going to show me this transaction on the blockchain, and you can see the balance of the testnet faucet and 0.1 test BCH that it sent to this address. That's let's see, it ends in YMDZ, and if I look at my right here, YMDZ, so that's my address of the wallet I created. Okay, so now that we have some Bitcoin Cash, we can send some Bitcoin Cash. So I'm going to go to the send BCH example, and again I'm going to run npm start, and so it opened the address, it generated a transaction, and it broadcasted the transaction. And again, there's a link here to the Block Explorer, so I can open that up. And you can see here it says it's broadcasted. It has not yet been confirmed in a block. And here's just a tiny fraction of some, like 1,000 test BCH, and you see here the addresses are the same, so it really just sent the Bitcoin Cash back to itself, because this is just a demonstration. But if this address was somebody else's address, that's how you would send Bitcoin Cash to them. And notice I haven't really gotten into the code, because these examples are set to run to just work by default. However, let's jump into the code here. And so I'm in the applications directory and the wallet directory. We just ran the send BCH example. So here's the actual code that's happening. Let me walk you through this. Most of these examples have these in capital letters. These are called constants. We use all caps to signal that, like, this is a constant that's not going to change, and use the const keyword so that value is constant, doesn't change. So we're using testnet. If you wanted to run through these examples using real Bitcoin Cash, you would just change this word testnet to mainnet. And if you wanted to send so this is the send BCH example, and if you wanted to send Bitcoin Cash to someone else, you would put their Bitcoin Cash address in here. And the amount of satoshis, remember there's 100 million satoshis in a Bitcoin. So you'd put the number of satoshis to send right here. And that's all you need to change in this example in order to change the settings for this program, to use testnet or mainnet, or who to send it to and how much to send. And then the rest of this you shouldn't need to really change, but it's good to understand. Let's walk through it real quick. These constants are for the FullStack.cash servers. One is for mainnet and one is for testnet. This is the bch-js npm library that these examples use. Here we switch between mainnet or testnet servers based on this keyword here. And then here's where it opens the wallet that we created in the first step. And here it's pulling the address and the mnemonic, those 12 words that I said are the private key, out of that wallet file. First it checks the balance and makes sure that the wallet has enough Bitcoin Cash to send. If it's 0, that it exits with an error. Here is where it overrides the receiver address. If you specify one up here, that's where it gets overridden. Otherwise, it'll default to the sending address, which is what we saw in Explorer. There's a lot of different addresses used in Bitcoin Cash. There's the legacy address, there's the Bitcoin Cash address, and there's the SLP address, and they all are the same address. So, but the full nodes, they really only understand legacy addresses. So here we convert the addresses into a legacy address. Now, UTXO is a really important concept in Bitcoin Cash, and there's this chapter in Mastering Bitcoin Cash right here that you should read if you don't understand what a UTXO is. It's actually like the thing that you spend. People talk about spending Bitcoins, but you actually spend UTXOs, which stands for not unconfirmed transaction output. Unspent, that's what it stands for, unspent transaction output. And so it finds basically all this code, what it does is it's finding the UTXOs for that address that it can spend, and it finds one, and then it starts building the transaction, and it figures out how much satoshis you want to send, the information on that UTXO that it needs in order to spend that, adds that UTXO as an input, and then calculates the transaction fee to pay the miner fees, calculates the change, the remainder that's going to go back to your wallet, and then it builds the outputs of the transaction. So the amount you're sending, and then the change that's going to come back to your wallet. Because one caveat about UTXOs is you have to spend them completely. So you don't ever spend just part of a UTXO. You always spend a complete UTXO, and any change comes back to you as a new UTXO. So then it actually builds the transaction and signs it with the private key. And then it converts that sort of transaction object into hexadecimal, into a binary form, which is what the full nodes actually use. And then it broadcasts the transaction to the Bitcoin Cash network. And that's pretty much the example. And a lot of these calls here, anytime it's calling bch-js, let me find an example here. So here's where it's retrieving the UTXOs for the address using the Electrum X indexer. This information, let me show you how to get to that information, is on FullStack.cash. If you scroll down to the documentation page, there is the API reference for bch-js and the API reference for BCH API, which is the REST API that bch-js talks to. So here's the documentation. So for example, we're using the Electrum X network of indexers. So if we go down here to Electrum X, we're calling the UTXO method. And so here's the documentation for that. It returns a list of UTXOs for an address. And so here's examples of how to call it and what it returns. And so all the calls for bch-js and bch API have examples like this. And so this is where to go to get the sort of documentation and poke through and see what is possible. Another great resource is developer.bitcoin.com. bch-js is based on the Bitbox SDK. It's a fork of it. And so their documentation might be a little bit easier to read. A lot of these functionality that's in here is also incorporated in bch-js. Now, there's stuff in bch-js that's not here. Like, for example, that Electrum X indexer, that's not supported by Bitbox. That's a new feature that was added after I forked bch-js from Bitbox. Okay, so that's the first example. I showed how to create a wallet, how to send BCH, how bch-js is being used, and where the documentation lives, how to get some testnet coins in order to get started. So now let's use real Bitcoin Cash, and let's do something fun. Let's create an SLP token. And this is this is a token that can you can create and send to your Bitcoin Cash or your Bitcoin.com wallet or any other SLP enabled wallet, and you can send it to your friends, and it's on the real live network. And so to do this, I'm going to use mint.bitcoin.com. Oh, here you are, which I have open right here. So if you go to mint.bitcoin.com, you can create a new wallet, and it's going to use that same 12-word mnemonic that I introduced when we were creating the wallet. And so here I already have a wallet created with a few tokens, and I've got a little bit of Bitcoin Cash. And what's nice is you don't need to know any coding in order to create a token using this website. But because this is for developers and for coders, I'm going to show you how to do the same thing using bch-js. And so let's get into that. I'm going to back out here into the root directory. And so I'm going to go back into that applications directory, and instead of going to the wallet directory, now I'm going to go to the SLP directory. And there's a lot of these same examples, like create wallet. It's exactly the same thing. I'm gonna create an SLP wallet here. Now notice it's still using BCH test, so it still defaults to the testnet. So in this case, I want to switch this to use mainnet, so that I can send the tokens to the mint.bitcoin app, and I can send them to the bitcoin.com app on my phone. So I'm going to go into the code here. So we're in applications, close the wallet, open the SLP, go into that create wallet example, and I'm going to switch this testnet to mainnet. And so I'm going to run this app again. And you can see now it came up with the Bitcoin Cash cache address. So now I'm using mainnet. And little technical caveat, when we generated the wallet, we were using the in the first example, we were using the 145 derivation path, and these examples use the 245 derivation path. And the reason is when Bitcoin Cash was forked from Bitcoin Core uses the derivation path of 0, and Bitcoin Cash opted for the derivation path of 145. So that's the official standard derivation path for Bitcoin Cash. When SLP tokens were created later, they opted for a new derivation path of 245. And what this does is it prevents tokens from being destroyed accidentally by wallets that aren't token aware. There's still a lot of Bitcoin Cash wallets that aren't aware of SLP tokens, and they can accidentally destroy them. So by keeping your tokens and your Bitcoin Cash on the 245 derivation path, that's sort of a signal that your wallet is SLP token aware, and so it won't destroy your tokens. Okay, so now that we've created a wallet, we can look at that wallet.json file. And so here is the mainnet address, and here is the same address in simple ledger format. And then here is again the same address in legacy format. And then this is the 12-word mnemonic. This is essentially the private key. So in order to create a token, we need a little bit of Bitcoin Cash to pay for the transaction fees. And I already have a little bit of Bitcoin Cash in my mint.bitcoin.com wallet. So I'm going to copy this address, and I'm going to send to this new wallet I just created 5,000 Satoshis. That should be enough to pay the transaction fees. Oh, interesting. Okay, it looks like there's some errors going on. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to show you another tool that is available on the FullStack Cash website. If you go back to the examples page, there is a link to the SLP CLI wallet. And so all these examples that are in this examples repository, they've been sort of like the next step for solving real business problems. There's this SLP CLI wallet, and CLI stands for Command Line Interface. So it's also an NPM library that you can drop into your applications and instantly give it a wallet capabilities. And so we're going to use that instead. So in another terminal window here, I'm going to go to the SLP CLI wallet repository, and I use this application quite a bit, so I'm going to go list wallets, and you'll see I have quite a few wallets here. And I have a trash wallet where I just send stuff that it's kind of the trash. And so I'm going to send let's see, 1,000? No, I said 10,000 Satoshis, which is 0.0001 Bitcoin, to this address. If you have the Bitcoin.com wallet, you can also copy and paste this and send it that way. So there's a lot of ways to get Bitcoin Cash into your wallet. So it's just negotiating with the FullStack.cash servers right now, doing a bunch of queries, a lot of the same stuff that are in those examples, pulling out UTXOs, finding the right one to spend. It's an HD wallet, so it's privacy oriented. Okay, so it just sent the Bitcoin Cash, and there's a link to the block explorer like before, so I could check if I wanted to, but I don't need to because I can check here. Going back to the examples, I can go into the check balances directory and go npm start. Oh, and this still thinks that I'm using the testnet. I need to switch that to testnet. So if I go to the check balances, I'm gonna have to do this for every example app because it defaults to testnet to help people get started quickly. So by switching that to mainnet, now the address changed to the proper Bitcoin Cash, and you can see I have 10,000 satoshis and one transaction. That's a transaction that I just sent to it. Okay, so now that the wallet has some Bitcoin Cash, I can create a token. And so I'm going to go into this create token. Now, I could just run, well actually, again, we have to change this to mainnet. Right there at the top. Now I could just run this as is, but it's going to use all the defaults. So if you really want to customize your token, scroll down here to the config object, and I'm going to call this the FullStack.cash demo token. I'm going to call this FullStack. You know, ticker symbols are usually 3 letters, but it doesn't have to be. So I'm going to create 100 tokens with a decimal precision of 2, so that'll be like dollars and cents. So I'll have essentially like $100.02 of decimal precision, just like US dollars would. You can set this, I think you can set that up to 10. 8 is what Bitcoin Cash uses, so I almost never go over 8 because if you use the same decimal precision as Bitcoin Cash, you can use all the same tools. And so that's really handy, but 2 is also really common, you know, since most like US dollars use cents and that has a decimal precision of 2. So it's going to create 100 tokens. And it's just going to send it back to the same wallet. So let's go npm start. Okay, there we go. And if we go to the block explorer, oh, it sent us a link. So this is going to say transaction not found because it actually was a link to the testnet. So I just need to change this. There we go. It automatically sent us to the mainnet. So there it says that it's a valid SLP token. It's a Genesis type transaction. And we created 100 full stack tokens. And there is a mint baton. So we could create additional tokens if we wanted to using this mint baton. And so if we go back to the check balances and run that, now there's 2 transactions in the transaction history, and now our new tokens are showing up. There's 100 tokens. So I don't know if Mint is going to work, but I was hoping I could send tokens here and have them show up. So let's see if this works. I'm going to go into the send token example. Let's open that up here in the code editor. Okay, again, so let's change this to mainnet. And I'm going to send 10 of these tokens to the simple ledger address that I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's right here. I clicked on this to copy that address. So that's my address of my wallet here at mint.bitcoin.com. And this token ID, this is really important. This is the Genesis transaction. So I'm going to go back here. When you generate, this is the create token. When you generate a transaction, it's going to give you a transaction ID, and this is the Genesis ID. You want to keep this handy. Because you're going to use this over and over again. Anytime you send a token, you're going to need that number. And yeah, the token ID, it's the same number. This is essentially what differentiates one token from another. Every token has a unique token ID that is the transaction hash of the Genesis transaction. So we're going to send 10 of this token to this address. Alright, let's go ahead and hit start and see what happens. Okay, it went through. We can look at it on the Explorer. It says it's valid. And this link right here, view on SLP Explorer, sometimes it's good to look at two different explorers. Bitcoin.com has their own, and simpleledger.info has their own explorer, and simpleledger.info pioneered this simple ledger technology, the SLP token technology. So they tend to be, if there's a discrepancy, I usually will trust this one. And okay, let's see if, looks like, here we go, FullStack right there. There's our 10 tokens. Showed up. There's the right token ID. So now I could use this same process to send tokens to my Bitcoin.com wallet or my Badger wallet, and or to my friends. So this is a real token. You know, this could represent concert tickets. It could enable access to a website or like a physical door, assuming like the hardware was in place. There's a USDH token that represents US dollars, and it's a stable coin. There's the Spice token, which is a tipping token. The Honk token is also kind of a tipping token. There's Sour tokens, which are right now I heard you can use the Sour tokens to buy sour gummies on a website somewhere. So there's all sorts of use cases for these tokens that are being developed. This is like the hot new thing in Bitcoin Cash right now. And so now you have the ability to create your own tokens and send them around for fractions of a penny. Okay, so that concludes this demonstration. Hopefully that inspires you to get started using the bch-js library. And real quick before I wrap up this video, I just want to point out, if you go back to the documentation page, we're actually here on the home page, there's a link to the Telegram group. If you want support or you just want to ask questions of more experienced developers as you get comfortable with this code base, click on this button. It'll take you to our Telegram group. This is the place to ask questions and get guidance. And I hope to see you there.